Today, we are going to talk about anxiety, and our topic is understanding and managing anxiety. This we have heard of this term very often. We say I'm anxious. We say, uh, uh, during a particular time I was experiencing feelings of anxiety. I have anxiety issues. When I stand in front of people, I get panic attacks. All those. So today we are going to get to answer and to get to explain what really happens to you when all this is happening. So we are going to begin by defining anxiety. So what is anxiety? So the simplest way of defining anxiety is the reaction to perception of being in danger. Not something that has happened, but perception is how you look at something, how you think about something. So you react towards how you have thought about something, and in this case, you have thought about being in danger. So when you react in a way that you think you're going to be in danger, that is what anxiety is all about. But sometimes this is good because, for instance, if you're a student, you are studying, or rather, you're studying and exams are coming up, you get anxious. Anxiety comes up because there's that fear that maybe I've not studied enough. The reason you have the fear is because you are scared of failing, and that is good because it's the one that powers you to study, to take a lot of time in studying to prepare. So sometimes it's good. When you are crossing the road, you don't just cross recklessly. You look left and right to make sure it's safe for you to cross. So anxiety is not totally bad. It's not, because anxiety actually, this part of the brain that is responsible, that makes us experience anxiety, it's meant to keep us alive and not to make us happy. And that's why you are cautious about things. That's why, you do all those things. That's why, all these feelings of anxiety comes in. So there are different things when you talk about fear. Fear, there is stress, there is worry, and there is anxiety. And all these things mean something different. So fear is immediate threat. For instance, where you are listening, if a lion would walk in, that is fear because that is an immediate threat. If a car is coming at you, that feeling you experience, that is fear, not anxiety. That is fear because that is immediate threat that has come up. Stress is how now your body reacts to stimuli or reacts to something, and most of the time it's normally an unconscious reaction. Then we have worry. Worry comes in when now we think. So this is the thinking part of the brain. So when you think about something that is likely to happen, what will happen if I stand in front of people and do this, I might, say something wrong, I might fail. So worry is the thinking part of anxiety. And then now we have anxiety, which is now the future oriented. When you imagine a threat, when you imagine tomorrow if I talk in front of people, oh God, what will happen? I'm scared because I might lose my job. I'm scared because something is going to happen. That feeling of an imagined threat, and in this case it's future oriented, that is anxiety. So now, I it's good to understand what's happening in our body, especially when we experience some of this feeling and when we experience anxiety. So what happens to your body is, um, there's this part of the brain called amygdala. I think I've mentioned this a lot. So amygdala is the part of the brain that senses threat. So right now, that part of the brain it's very alert to listen to noise outside, to listen to things passing, to make sure that it protects you. It's the one that alerts you when something wrong is about to happen. It's the one that makes you, there's this feeling we say like ulisikia ni kama nywele zimesimama kwa mgongo, like that feeling. It's because of this part of the brain called amygdala. So we compare this part of the brain, we compare it to smoke detectors. We have all seen smoke detectors. And the work of smoke detectors is not to detect fire, but to detect smoke in order to warn us before there is fire. So we have this in our homes, and maybe even in at work. But sometimes in our homes, when you cook food and you burn it, there's a lot of smoke. It can make the smoke detector, to make noise, to alert you, yet you know this is not a immediate threat. This is not a threat. So, or rather you can take a hot shower, especially women. You can take a hot shower, and then when you come out of the bathroom, there's a lot of steam. So what will this smoke detector do? It will detect that as if it's, you know, as if it's a threat, because that is the work. So what do I mean by all this? This means that sometimes this part of the brain can be very sensitive and can be reactive even to things that are not a threat. And that's why sometimes you get panic attack. There's nothing dangerous that is happening, but there's that feeling of overwhelming. Your heart is beating, everything is screaming to you that you are going to die, because that is your body warning you. But now it reaches to a point whereby this part of the brain is very sensitive, to a point that it wants you even to things that are not dangerous. And that is what we call now anxiety. So now, before I go there, there's another part of the brain called prefrontal cortex. So this is part of the brain that is responsible for decision making, responsible for emotional focus, emotional regulation, and focus. So whenever we are stressed, I mentioned that whenever we are stressed, there's a hormone our body produces called cortisol. So cortisol is a stress hormone, and it normally affects this structure of the brain. Actually, cortisol is the hormone that makes amygdala become very sensitive, especially if you have been exposed to series of stressors in your life. So amygdala is very fast in reacting, even faster than this part of the brain called prefrontal cortex, because this is part of the brain that makes decision, that is like, that can say this is a threat and this is not a threat. And that's why right now where you are seated, if somebody would just come and scare you, you jump. Even if you see them, you can see them sometimes, and then they scare you and you jump. And then you wonder, why? Why did I jump and I saw them immediately before jumping? It's because amygdala is very quick. And that's why when you are having a panic attack, when you are told count things around you, is to awaken this part of the brain. Because when you are in that situation, this prefrontal cortex is as if it shuts down, and that's why you are not, everything in you is screaming that you are going to die. But then, when you start counting things around you, when you start taking intentional breathing in, you calm down, and then you end up awakening this part of the brain. And then that's why you realize, I'm okay. So now, what are the triggers of anxiety? What is likely to trigger you when you're experiencing anxiety? So work or school pressure can trigger you, maybe where you have deadlines and you feel that if I don't finish this, I'm going to be in trouble. There's something that I'm supposed to finish at a particular time. If I fail, then what will come of me? So these are the life stressors that can trigger anxiety. Major life changes. Maybe you are moving, maybe there's a job loss, marriage, financial stress, bills are there, economy, things are quite expensive. Maybe you have debts, health concern. Maybe you are ailing from something, or maybe somebody in your family has a chronic condition, relationship conflicts, arguments, past traumas. Like, so all these things, uncertainty, fear of the future, what if, all these things, they trigger anxiety. And we said anxiety is how, um, the best definition was anxiety is the reaction to perception of being in danger. So when you perceive being in danger, all these things trigger you to perceive that you are in danger. So now I think I've already explained what happens when we are experiencing a panic attack. Um, so now, what can cause anxiety? You know, we are talking about anxiety. So what really causes anxiety apart from the triggers? So where does this anxiety comes from? So we say anxiety, there's a mental disorder called generalized anxiety disorder. So we say that anxiety is genetic, but when we say it's genetic, or or anytime you hear a certain illness is genetic, it does not mean that that is a life sentence. No, there might be people in your family who has a certain condition, but that does not mean also you yourself you're going to get that illness. That's not the case. You are likely, if your life if how you manage your life, if how you manage normal life stressors, if you are not taking care of yourself, then you are likely to get this illness. But it being in your family, it does not mean that this is a life sentence for you. People have different personality traits. There are people who are perfectionists, who want things to be done at a certain way. So when things are not done at a certain way, it scares them. They view that as a threat. They view that as danger. So such people, you find that they are very exposed to having anxiety. People with low self-esteem, so you try to please people in order for people not to say things, bad things about you, in order not to hurt your feelings. That exposes you to anxiety because you can never control people. You can never control what people think. You can never control what people feel, and you can never control what people do. We literally don't have power over that. Another thing that can cause anxiety is chronic stress. And chronic stress is whereby you have been exposed to so many life stressors. Maybe there's a lot of pressure at work or at school, at home. Maybe you fought with your spouse, there's a sick family member, you have a car trouble, finances. So when all these life stressors, when all these things happen for quite a period of time, this is what causes chronic stress. So chronic stress end up causing anxiety if not always, but if you don't have healthy ways of managing it. Another thing that can cause anxiety is trauma or advanced experiences. So maybe you had a very traumatic childhood, or maybe you experienced something very traumatic, and by thinking about it, you feel as if you are in that moment. And that is what mostly we call post-traumatic stress disorder. We are going to talk about it. So trauma or advanced experiences can also expose you to anxiety. Medical conditions, like chronic illnesses, substance use. If you've been using substances to help you, deal with stress, or rather just for fun, it can also expose you to anxiety. And also environmental factors, unstable homes, financial struggles, high pressure lifestyle, all these things can cause anxiety. But the point is, if you have healthy ways of managing stress, if you have healthy ways of taking care of yourself, you have people whom you can talk to, you know how to take care of yourself, then it's very unlikely for you to experience anxiety. But then we have said anxiety is not totally bad, because it's the one that makes you be cautious when you're crossing the road. It's the one that makes you, jump when you need to jump. When something comes at you, it's the one that will make you, be able to avoid it. So it's not totally bad, but now when you are exposed to experiences that keep on triggering, these feelings of anxiety, then that is what, becomes harmful. So now, there are several types of anxiety disorders. So we have one called generalized anxiety disorder. So this is whereby you end up experiencing feelings of excessive loneliness, worrying about too many things, worrying that there's something bad is likely to happen. You don't know what, but you have a feeling something bad is about to happen. Constant fear, even you are unable to eat because of all those feelings. We call that generalized anxiety disorder. And if you're feeling this does not mean that you have this. You need to be diagnosed by a psychiatrist in order for you to be, um, in order for you to say you have this type of anxiety. Another one which is a little bit common is we call panic disorders. So panic disorders is now what most people normally experience are called panic attacks. Whereby um, you feel as if you are unable to breathe, your heart is beating very fast, you are sweating, you feel very scared. That is a panic attack. Experiencing it once does not mean you have panic disorder, or experiencing it twice does not mean that you have panic disorder. But if you experience this more than, maybe let's say, 4 or 5 days in the last 2 weeks, then that it calls for concern. Again, you need to be diagnosed by a professional in order for you to to be told that you have this kind of disorder, and then you are given medication. The other one is called social anxiety disorder. So, social anxiety disorder, this occurs to people who have fear of being in social situations or being judged by others. So, the thought of maybe there'll be a meeting at work, and maybe mostly you work at home, the thought of going to work and meeting all those people, scares you. You even experience panic attack. That is social anxiety. We have other, we call them specific phobias. I know we are familiar with phobias. There are people who fear heights, there are people who fear snakes, there are people who fear flying, there are people who fear swimming. So we all have certain fears. But now when we talk about these phobias, which now end up becoming a disorder, is that when you are exposed to these things, particular objects that you fear, it becomes very intense for you to be in that area. Again, you also need to be diagnosed. The other one we call obsessive compulsive disorder. And this is whereby there's that recurring unwanted thoughts or repetitive behaviors. You thought maybe you touch something and you feel your hands are dirty. Then you go, you wash your hands, and then you come back, you think again, did I really wash my hands? Then you go back and wash your hands. But then you think maybe, germs and all that, you do it again. Or rather, have you ever closed your house and then you reach stage and then you start thinking, did I close my house really? And that thought disturbs you to a point that you go back and close the house, you go back to confirm. Or rather, maybe you left your tap open, but that's not the case. So if this happens, I know we have all experienced some of these things that I'm mentioning, but if these things happen to a point that now they're affecting your current way of life, way of living, then that's when they become a problem. Or if they have been occurring for quite a period of time and now they bring you a concern, then that means you should go talk to somebody. So if I also sometimes assume that I've closed the door, then I'm unable to sleep until I confirm. Then you go and confirm, then you come back and sleep. That is okay, that is normal. But if now that becomes like that can be the trend with each and every single thing that I do, I have to second guess myself. I have to confirm each and every time. Then that's when it becomes a problem. The other anxiety disorder is called post-traumatic stress disorder, and this occurs as a result of trauma from something. Maybe mostly people who have, let's say you are maybe assaulted, could be physically, sexually, and by the thought of it, a flashback, you get so scared, you even have a panic attack because you feel as if the threat is right there at the moment. And you keep on reliving that moment over and over again, experiencing that pain over and over again. And in this case, I mean emotional pain. So if this is you, then talk to somebody. And lastly, when we talk about anxiety disorder, we have now separation anxiety disorder. So this is now the intense fear of being apart from loved one. Mostly this is with children, especially when they don't want to stay away from their parents. Um, so now, what do we do when we get to experience all this? How do we take care of ourselves? How do we manage anxiety in a world whereby things are changing? We are getting different news each and every single day. Different things are happening. How do we maneuver? Because remember, there's so much you can do. There are so many things that you don't have power over. And the only power you have over, and I love to repeat this, is the only power you have over is over yourself, over what you think, over what you feel, and over what you do. So now, what do you do? What do we do? So, most of the time when we're experiencing these feelings of anxiety, we are unsettled. You find yourself, you are fidgeting all the time, or rather you are moving around, you are unable to stay still. So when that happens, when your body is not calm, it sends signal to the brain that also there's something going on. And that's why we say a calm body is equals to a calm mind. So even if you're feeling all those things, yes, you can choose to go for a walk, that is okay. But if you are in a situation whereby you cannot walk, you only need to use the space that you are in within. Then take a deep breath in, try to calm down. Because when you calm your body, you signal your brain that I'm safe. And then body-based technique can switch off anxiety. Another thing you can do as a form of now calming your anxiety is deep breathing. And it sounds common, it sounds very easy, but right now as you're listening to me, what you are doing is you are unintentionally breathing, unconsciously breathing, that's the word. But now that I've mentioned it, you know, now you are conscious when you are breathing. So when you take a deep breath in, intentionally, consciously, you it activates the body relaxation response. So sometimes, and then sometimes the only thing you need to do is take a deep breath in, a very big, deep breath. And what you can do is, as you breathe, you can count four, counting 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you hold for 4, and then as you release your air through the mouth, you also count to 4. You do that in a repetition of 3 or 4 times. Trust you me, you feel better, and you end up calming your anxiety. Another thing that I'm sure majority of you didn't know is yawning. And funny thing is that when I was, um, working on this presentation and I was looking for this photograph, I was yawning because you see somebody yawning and then you feel like yawning, and now I'm trying not to yawn. Funny. So, and we always wonder why when I yawn and there's somebody around me, they also yawn. And we say yawning is infectious. So, this is what happens when you yawn. When you yawn, blood flows, as in yawning increases blood flow and it cools your brain. It's like telling your brain is overheating and it's like cooling it. And most of the time, you yawn when you are tired, when you need to relax, when you need to sleep. So our brain have some mirror neurons. So when they see somebody else yawning, brain cooling, it's that person is being warned by the brain. Yeah, I mean the brain is making this person to cool off. You also end up yawning in order for you to cool off. So that's why a person yawns and you also yawn. Now, yawning is okay. So when you are, let's say you are about to give a presentation, you are so scared, you don't know what to do. Yawn, fake a yawn. You'll fake the first time, the second one, the third one would be real. And trust you me, you feel better. So these are like the quick fixes that you can do at that particular time. Another thing you can do is laughing. Have you ever been scared such that the only thing you can do is laugh? Yeah, I know we have. And what happens is like when you laugh, you end up releasing that adrenaline and that cortisol. And laughing also boosts this hormone called endorphin. It's a feel good mood booster type of hormone. And laughing, most of the time when you laugh, it's because of something positive. So you end up shifting perspective from problems feeling heavy to problems feeling lighter. Have you like gone through something such that like you just need to laugh, or a friend tells you a story, you laugh and even tell them, I'm not laughing at you. It's just that there's no reaction to do to this. Because you do that, you release, anxiety. And I'm not saying you go and laugh at your friends. No, we all know, the right time to do that or when to do that. The other one is shaking it off. Shake it off. Have you watched these wildlife movies where we see animals, a lion chasing a leopard or another prey? So what happens when these animals stop? They shake. And it was discovered that when they shake, at that time when they were running, the amygdala sensed that they were in danger. So it produced hormone cortisol and adrenaline, which fueled it to run. So when it is stopped, since now it's no longer in danger, it needs to get rid of that. And that is what happens even with us. Sometimes you need that stress in order to be able to function at something, in order to be able to do something. But now sometimes your body is unable to get rid of those hormones, and that's why your body needs you to help it get rid of this. And animals, they get rid of such hormones through shaking. So even you can shake. Where you are, you can stand and shake. You feel better. You end up releasing all those hormones. So shaking is good. So we can take an example of this, these animals. Another thing you can do, and these are like the quick things you can do, because especially maybe you are at work and there's nothing much you can do. You can go and wash your face with cold water. When you do that, you end up calming the nervous system. By doing that, you slow the heart rate, because remember, anxiety ends up raising your heart rate. So when you wash your face, you end up slowing the heart rate and your anxiety reduces. So these are some of the quick things you can do. Another thing is hugging someone you care about. When you are in physical contact with someone you care about, your body produces a hormone called oxytocin. So, oxytocin is the love bonding kind of hormone. So, when you're scared and then you hug someone you care about, or you're even closer to someone you care about and they just touch you, or just being there, your body produces this love hormone. And when this hormone is produced, it makes the cortisol, which is the stress hormone, to go away, and you feel much better. And so this is to encourage you to work on creating meaningful relationship. Also, when you are okay, you don't have to be alone. Talk to somebody around you. Be around people who you know they care about you, because sometimes all you need is a hug, you know. Uh, Monotasking instead of multitasking. Women, we pride ourselves that we are multitaskers. I guess that's right. And you can literally do several things at a time. And maybe that's true, we can. But studies shows that multitasking increases stress and mistakes, because you need to concentrate on so many things. And this can also increase anxiety. So sometimes if there's a lot of things that you need to do, for example, at work, just write them down and then start doing one at a time and ticking. And by just doing that, your body produces dopamine, which is the reward and motivation hormone. And you might not finish what you were supposed to do at that particular time, but the fact that you come to your list and you see you have ticked 5 things, you get that feeling of satisfaction. I've achieved something, I have done something today. So we can avoid multitasking and just focus at one task at a time. That will reduce anxiety. Sometimes, not sometimes, when we are stressed and a lot is going on, stress ends up hiding in our muscles. And that's why sometimes you'll hear your neck is sore, you feel you are tired. It's because sometimes stress hides in our muscles. So sometimes all you need to do is maybe stand up, stretch your body, and release all that tension. You do that, you end up feeling better. Another one that I think should have been the first one. Anxiety keeps on happening when you fight it, when you ignore it, when you feel like I'm scared, I'm anxious, then you try to fight that feeling. And what happens? It end up happening again and again. So sometimes you only need to expose yourself to that. You only need to feel it. You only need to hug yourself and be in that moment. Feel whatever your body is feeling, because it's trying to communicate something. And then once, trust me, you feel it, it goes away and it might not come back again. That's how you deal with anxiety. Amygdala, which we said is the body's alarm system, it looks for things to try to, like, it looks for information to make sure that you are alive. So if something is dangerous, it keeps that history. So let's say, let me talk about the most activity that most people are so scared of. Sorry, a lot of people are most scared of. Maybe let's say talking in front of people. So talking in front of people, you hear you have a presentation tomorrow, and you are so nervous about that. You are so scared. Your anxiety levels goes high. So that time, amygdala is telling you that talking in front of people is a threat. When you talk in front of people, you are likely going to die. That's what amygdala is communicating. And that's why your heartbeat is going high, because it's giving you all these symptoms in order to take you away from, in order for you to remove yourself from that situation. But then sometimes you see whatever is making me scared is not something dangerous. Those are just feelings. So what do? We tell people you're scared of speaking in front of people, do it anyway. Because the moment you do it anyway, what you end up doing is you end up amygdala ends up realizing, kumbe talking in front of people won't kill me. ah Sijakufa. And trust you me, there's no way, even if you start a presentation, from the beginning to the end you'll be scared. It's only the beginning, until amygdala realizes, this is not something dangerous, I'm maybe overreacting here, and then it calms down. So sometimes by avoiding situations that you feel they scare you, avoiding them, you end up avoiding them over and even so much, such that if talking in front of people scares you, then I won't talk in front of people. And that is around 50 people. But then again, if 50 people can harm me, then 10 people are likely to harm me. And it can reach to a point you hardly leave your house, because now you don't want to talk to people at all. So face your fears. Face your fears. You do that, you end up giving information to amygdala that some of these things, they are not as threat as it perceives. Because remember, anxiety is perception of a threat. Another thing that you can do as a way of calming your anxiety is through exercise, and in this case is cardio. So cardio is either cycling, running, jumping rope, jogging, swimming, and all that. So cardio exercises are those exercises that raises your heart rate. So when you practice cardio exercise, what happens is that you end up creating resistance. You end up building a heart resistance, because when you are anxious, your heart rate, goes high. And now when you do these activities, your heart rate also goes high. So your body won't be able to know, is it heart rate for running? So you find out anytime you experience your heart rate goes high, your brain does not cry out that this is something dangerous. So exercise. Previously, in the previous session, I talked a lot about exercise as a form of managing stress. And exercise is not pleasurable. It's not. The thought of running and you feel as if your heart is going to come out, it's not pleasurable at all. But when you intentionally put your body through physical discomfort, it brings about strong mindset. I'm going to repeat. When you push your body through physical discomfort, it brings about strong mindset. Because exercise will teach you nothing comes easy. Exercise will teach you it's okay to be in pain. Exercise will teach you discipline. And if you can persevere through that 10 minutes run, when you feel as if you are going to die, if you can persevere, lifting all those weights, then you end up persevering in so many things. So you end up taking all those values from exercise and you apply them into your life. There's this guy called David Goggins, and he's considered one of the toughest men alive, because he has done so many exercises and all those activities. He has trained with Navy, he has trained with Marine, he has trained with Air Force, he has run marathon that take days. So like he normally pushes himself like to do these things that people consider them hard. And he says he has written a book called Can't Hurt Me. If you'd like, you can check it out. And he says that if you want to achieve anything in this life, exercise. Because if you can go through that pain in order to look good, in order to feel good, in order to be better, you can literally tackle anything in life. And we normally say that anxiety or mental illness does not hit a moving target. So if your work entails you being in the office, you get home, like you don't get time to move, then all these disorders, they are just watching you from a distance, but they can kick in anytime. So move your body. We are creatures meant to move around, not to be stuck around. So move around, and most of these illness, they do not hit a moving target. Another thing, um, When we are stressed, stress affects the structure of the brain. But then meditation goes ahead and fixes it, because when you meditate, meditation is that practice of quieting the mind, monitoring your thoughts without judging them, breathing and becoming present, listening to outside and also listening to your thoughts. All that is meditation. So, so when you meditate, you reduce amygdala. We said amygdala is the fear center. It's the one that is very reactive when we have anxiety. So when you meditate, you reduce the structure of amygdala and you become less reactive. You lower your stress levels. You know, when you meditate, you strengthen this part of the body. We call it prefrontal cortex. We said it's the part responsible for decision making, emotional regulation, and focus. So whenever you meditate, you strengthen it. When you meditate, there is another part called the default mode network. This is the part of the brain that overthinks. You see, when you have an argument with somebody and then you finish, when you go home, when you get to bed, when you start thinking, I should have said this comment. I should have said this comment. And then you start arguing with that person in your head until you win. That is overthinking. And that is now this part of the brain that is, it's very loud. So stress makes this part of the brain become very loud, but whenever you practice meditation, you normally quiet it down. And when you do that, you end up promoting so much peace and inner balance. So meditation is one of the best ways of managing anxiety. And I read somewhere that meditation is actually treating depression and anxiety. So if you've been experiencing these feelings of anxiety, you are not okay, try to do meditation. You're going to ask, so how do I start? Just go to YouTube, just Google, meditation. There are so many videos that can guide you. Just listen to one of them. Another one is mindfulness. Mindfulness is being present in the moment. So sometimes instead of focusing on what our head is telling us, what is going on inside our head, just focus on what you can see. Is it trees you can see? Is it air that you can feel? Is it someone you are talking to? Listen to them. Try to look out for the emotion that they are showing. If you are eating food, put your phone aside. You know, try to enjoy this food and try to look out for the spices. That is mindfulness, and it lowers stress because by doing these activities, you are present in the moment and you are not focusing on the thoughts. Another thing that I love to put out here is that what causes us stress, what causes us suffering, is not what is happening, is not challenges at work, it's not family member, it's not lack of money, it's not something somebody said. All those things, yeah, those things are not good, but they're not the one that causes you stress. What causes you stress is how you think towards what is happening. How you think toward what is happening is what causes you stress. So I always challenge you people, think in a way that gives you peace. Always think in a way that brings you peace. Because our mind, our brain does not differentiate between a thought and reality. It does not. I repeat, our brain does not differentiate between a thought and reality. So that's why you can think of something that has never happened, that probably will never happen, and you laugh. Or you can think of something and you cry and you become very sad. Your brain should tell you, come on, that is not true. So always strive to think in a way that brings you peace because you have power over that. As I'm winding up, there's this event I mentioned, as part of Inner Flame Mind and Wellness. We arrange for such events in order to help people be present in the moment, just away from their life, away from their stressors, away from everything that is going on. So you just come here, we ride bikes, we play all sort of games, we talk about mental health, we laugh, we do all sort of things. And this event, we assure you that you get a day away from everything that is going on in your life. Because of what is happening in Karura, I'm not sure about the bike riding, but we can either I'll confirm, but it can either be bike riding or painting, because normally we do painting. So if this is something that you want, uh, we only have very few spots available, so you can reach out after this. Also, I have available ebooks. These are from the last two previous sessions that we had. One, we talked about the truth about suffering, and the other one is about the art of stressful living. All this contains ways of managing stress, ways of taking care of ourselves, recognizing the stress, how the brain processes stress, and all that. So if this is something that you want, that is the number you can text, or rather, call. If you want further information about these webinars, if you want to be joining us every Wednesday, you can follow us on our social media, where we get to post the updates and the link. So you can check that out. Follow us so that you can get the updates. And yes, so I'm done and I'm ready for questions.